With the Demon Slayer soon approaching, I wanted to do a unique matchup. Today's video will feature the Upper Moons versus the Disaster Curses. Demon Slayer and JJK are fairly close in terms of power scaling and versus battles. The only rules are that yes, the demons can see the curses, and no, the curses can't stall and wait for the sun. I've had this idea for a year or so roughly now, so it's finally a perfect time to release it. The best matchups include Upper Moon 6 Gyutaro versus Choso, Upper Moon 5 Gyokko versus Dagon, Upper Moon 4 Hantengu versus Hanami, Upper Moon 3 Akaza versus Jogo, Upper Moon 2 finally Upper Moon 1 Kokushibo versus Kenjaku. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Without any more waiting, let's get into the Upper Moons versus the Disaster Curses.
Thank you to Tokyo Treat for sponsoring this video. Stay tuned for a unique chance to have your own video on the channel, more on that later. Tokyo Treat is a fun and exclusive Japanese snack box featuring exciting and unique flavors straight from Japan. Each box is filled with a variety of Japanese snack items like limited edition Kit Kats, specialty flavored Japanese chips, and occasional Japanese sodas that are only available in Japan for a limited time. Every box comes with a cultural guide booklet containing Japanese cultural information, an explanation of each snack like the flavor profiles, ingredients, and allergen information. Each month, Tokyo Treat has a different theme, usually aligning with a season or holiday in Japan, or promoting certain Japanese cultural celebrations. For example, the August box I received is an awesome decorated box for summertime altering into fall. This month, Tokyo Treats bring a reviving cheer with a limited edition seasonal box packed with sweet Japanese treats and wonderful summer delights. From unique seasonal flavors to classical Japanese favorites, this box captures the magic of Japan during August. Treat yourself or share the joy with loved ones. Enjoy both sweet and savory konbini inspired snacks like Kit Kat Orange, mini sugar donuts, strawberry cotton candy, chocolate cream wafer, and many more. My personal favorite, like I've always said, is the Kit Kats. This time the Kit Kats from Tokyo Treat is a savory, flavorful orange sensation. I really enjoy the flavor of orange and I eat it quite often. So if you're like me and enjoy snacks such as that, or just snacks in general, then Tokyo Treats boxes are for you. Savor the incredible variety of snacks from Japan itself. With my code REMI at checkout. Use code REMI to receive $5 off your first Tokyo Treat box through my link in the description below. Now, onto the video. So starting with the scale for the Disaster Curses, they should be all around the same range and relative at a bare minimum, with the exception of Kenjaku. Jogo being the easiest to scale would be around large town to city levels, with his maximum meteor calc that was going to damage Sukuna in their battle. His speed should be around sub to supersonic, as he was able to take out a weakened Naobito, who is stated to be the fastest sorcerer other than Gojo. While not fully scaling to them, Jogo is still able to keep pace and fight the two strongest sorcerers within the series, in that of Sukuna and Gojo. His durability should also be impressive, as he is able to take hits from both Sukuna and Gojo numerous times. As for abilities, he would have normal fire manipulation and explosions. He is also able to create mini volcanoes that erupt, and insects that produce sound and explosions. And within his domain, it produces insanely high temperatures that instantly evaporates normal sorcerers. Next up, Dagon, who scales below that of Jogo. Dagon having city block level AP via being able to damage and fight Nanami, Naobito, and Maki. With his domain, this should increase it to those town levels of AP. Speed also being within subsonic ranges, as he is able to keep pace with Maki and Nanami, Maki being one to cut bullets against her sister. In Dagon's domain, he's able to summon a large body of water, transporting his enemies to a secluded island, then shooting and spamming them with endless Shikigami. Now there is a sun visible within his domain, however it's more than likely not the actual sun and is just there as an aesthetic. But if you do consider this to be the actual sun, then yes, the upper moons will be affected. Now for Hanami, she should be the weakest of them, having a calc from creating a tree that should be around large building level. Hanami was also able to trade blows with an early Yuji and Todo as well. Her speed would also be in the subsonic ranges, given she was able to keep pace with the two. Now her endurance is actually pretty good, from taking 5 black flashes from Yuji and a playful cloud from Todo, which would amp his strength using the weapon. She's also able to endure a hollow purple enough to physically move. While of course she wouldn't scale to his full output, I thought I might as well mention this. For abilities, Hanami would have earth and plant style attacks that can pierce enemies, and other plant based attacks like growing giant branches to use mid-air, flower buds that shoot out and consume energy of his opponents. Using her left arm, she can absorb life from surrounding plants, converting into curse energy that augments a blast from this energy. And finally, she is able to create a bed of flowers that seemingly act as a genjutsu, and take away the enemy's will to fight, even working on Gojo that has access to the 6 eyes. Mahito coming up next will be one of the strongest and overhaxed member of the Disaster Curses. His AP will be from multi-city block, from having 2 calcs in which he was able to create a hole in the ground at city block level, and his body repel technique that shakes the subways of Shibuya being multi-city block levels of energy. Using his final form and exposing 200% of his potential, his speed would be above subsonic, possibly supersonic, giving his skill above Maki cutting bullets, and Jogo blitzing this Maki. Using idle transfiguration, he's able to alter himself and his opponent's soul, killing his enemies if contacted. He also has other things like splitting himself up, light flashes, and extremely good regeneration, as he states no matter what damage he takes, he can regenerate from as long as his soul is intact. And with this domain, he's able to transfigure his opponent's soul at will, Choso being able to damage both Kenjaku and Yuji, and even besting Yuji in their engagement. And by forcing Kenjaku to dodge his attacks, his AP would require at least multi-city block levels of potency. During his fight with Kenjaku, he's able to keep pace with Yuki to fight and damage Kenjaku. While he would be a bit slower than the two, he was nevertheless able to contend, making his speed around supersonic. This can also be confirmed as piercing blood is just directly supersonic. Using blood manipulation, he's able to alter blood to his liking, this augmenting Choso with attacks such as piercing blood, flowing red that enhances his physicals to keep pace with Yuji, extra durability and increased attacks by hardening his blood, and with his awakening he's able to copy his own brother's powers. The most notable is where he's able to remove and reattach his body parts, and use wings to be more mobile, and each of his attacks would also have poison. Finally, Kenjaku, who would skill above all the previous disaster curses from defeating Choso and Yuki. He even finds Yuta to not be as good as everyone makes him out to be, which we all know how that turned out. Nevertheless, his AP should be around large town level to small city level, from scaling 2 or above Jogo and Mahito. There is Yuki's black hole as well, which wouldn't grant Kenjaku with any AP at all, since it was greatly suppressed, meaning it was nowhere near his max potential, and he had to use his curse technique to survive. For speed, he would massively scale above Choso's piercing blood, which travels at the speed of sound. So at bare minimum, he would scale to supersonic. But given we know he would scale far above this tier, by keeping pace with Yuki, who was a special grade sorcerer, and an amplified Choso in which Kenjaku dodges, we can grant Kenjaku with hypersonic to massively hypersonic if you think Yuki would scale to Akari or Kashimo. And there's Maki's statement in which she says that Kenjaku cannot be beaten through conventional means, likely referring to raw speed as well. For his abilities is very vast, so I'll just make it quick. Using cursed spirit manipulation is able to summon millions of these cursed spirits, maximum Uzumaki that condenses his spirits into a giant attack, acting as a buzzer beater final blow. He also has gravity manipulation, regeneration with RCT, attack reflection, binding vows, and finally sealing via the prison realm. With everything said and done, how do the disaster curses compare to the upper moons? Let's find out.
So when I scale Demon Slayer, or rather when I see others scale the Demon Slayer series, the community overall just seems to be confused. Some think the series caps at Muzan's tentacle craters that's like building level, which is pretty silly considering factors like Gyutaro and Daki, who are the weakest upper moons that have building level destruction themselves. So if you think they scale to only those building levels, which is incorrect, at the very least try to follow this line of scaling so the battle between the upper moons and disaster curses can be intriguing and enjoyable. Starting with upper moon 6 Gyutaro, who should scale to building level. Daki, who's massively weaker than Gyutaro, getting blitz and no diff by Tengen, who is going extreme diff against Gyutaro. Using this simple logic, we can estimate the vast difference in power between every upper moon. For example, Akaza is straight shitting bricks when Kokushibo is in his presence, and that's a 3-to-1 ratio. Daki and Gyutaro should be much more vast, as Muzan alongside Gyutaro himself admit to the fact that Daki is a great liability in combat. Daki nevertheless is able to destroy multiple small buildings. Gyutaro is even able to replicate this in a greater degree in his self-destruction mechanism. Using this, we can grant him with building level AP. This seems to be accurate since the hand demon destroys the ground beneath him that scout that small building, and the hand demon is obviously beneath the upper moon scaling echelon. Upper moon 5 Gyokko should vaguely be above those building levels, probably building plus. Hantengu, or rather Zohakuten, is above the previous two upper moons, with his AP likely being large building to even city block level. Akaza upper moon 3 is just beneath that of Doma, who has a creation feat capped at city block plus. To remind everyone, this Doma is legit dying of poison consumption from Shinobu. To put in perspective, this Doma is around 700 times weaker than average. Shinobu's entire body containing 37 kilograms worth of poison, and she uses 50 milliliters normally to defeat other demons. Using these numbers, we can come to the conclusion that Doma is 700 times weaker than this city block plus feat. For Akaza's AP, he should be augmented with city block levels of potency. For Doma, I won't be scaling a full composite and healthy Doma since some people may disagree with this. So for this very reason, we can easily interpret his AP to be multi-city block plus to even small town levels. Upper moon 1 Kokushibo being vastly above every previously mentioned feat, and with the accolade of him being the pinnacle of a demon, he should solidly scale in those town levels of attack potency. Now that my AP portion has been brought to life in a consistent manner, let's move to speed and abilities. For speed, the upper moons are or above the drum demon, who attacks travel at the speed of sound. Using this, characters like Daki, who is able to keep pace with a base Tanjiro who dodged the drum demon's attacks, would be supersonic plus. Daki getting blitzed by Tengen, who at the very least kept pace with Gyutaro. This Gyutaro is even able to speed blitz Tengen at times. Tengen has a speed calc in which he's able to cut bombs that's calculated at massively hypersonic speeds. This shouldn't be an outlier either, since Mitsuri is able to dodge lightning against Ohakuten, who's shown the ability to shoot lightning bolts. And yes, it's real lightning since it's from the sky. With this, Kaigaku, a new upper moon, is augmented with black lightning. We know this movement to be faster than average lightning since he's able to blitz Zenitsu at the start of the fight. And considering he's the lowest upper moon, they should all scatter those massively hypersonic plus ranges in terms of speed. To back this up, we even saw Mui cut Gyokko's fish that's calced at massively hypersonic. Now again, not every single upper moon has to scale to these speed echelons. For example, upper moon 6 to 5, Gyutaro and Gyokko should maybe scale to those high hypersonic ranges in speed. For the rest of the upper moons, this scaling should all be valid. There is exceptions with characters such as Doma and Koko who should be considered sub-rail with this line of scaling. This really should only apply to Koko, but I could see Doma being there since the 700 times debuff really shows in speed. Their abilities are all various, with upper moon 6 having blood poison sickles using his blood manipulation. Upper moon 5 having fish in his arsenal. With his blood demon art, he's able to use things such as the 1,000 needle fish that showers his opponent with poisonous needles. Water prison pot that encases his enemy in a cage of water. A giant octopus summon. 10,000 fish that overwhelms the opponent, and once it's cut, it releases a poisonous gas. And with his true form to increase his physical stats alongside durability. Upper moon 4 that has lightning and sound based attacks with a giant wood dragons to repel and attack enemies. Upper moon 3 is a master in hand to hand and close range combat. Compass needle that acts as precog alongside an enhancement in speed and precision. His other attacks offer him the ability to keep long distance and attack his opponents with shockwaves. Upper moon 2 has multiple ice based attacks. Things such as freezing clouds, which can be used to freeze his opponent's eyes. Cold white princesses that can blow and freeze the surroundings using range. Divine white child, which creates 6 copies of himself to battle his opponent. Each of these clones are able to use the same abilities and fighting proficiency as Doma himself. And his Buddhist statue that's able to shoot giant gusts of ice and physical attacks using its arms to grab enemies as well. And overall, he uses ice in every attack, making it hard to fight in his attack and range area. Finally, Upper Moon 1, who has 16 moon breathing techniques, all different in form and style. He also has See-Through World, which augments precog. Lastly, all 6 upper moons have unlimited stamina as well as regeneration. As for the first matchup being Choso versus Gyutaro, this is a battle of blood techniques. Both seem to have decent long range and reach abilities to counter the other, while Choso's AP and durability should be consistently higher. Gyutaro holds the DC edge, being seen to slice and destroy building. Gyutaro would have absolutely no problem dodging Choso's piercing blood, and would in fact blitz him before he even had the chance to unleash this attack. His blood sickles would be futile poison wise, since Choso is implied to be immune to blood poisoning. Since Choso holds an AP edge, Gyutaro would need to rely on his useless poison, which would be an issue. Choso furthermore has the ability to harden his body to enhance durability, making Gyutaro's chance of killing him all the worse. This is a classic battle of speed versus strength. Both have poison which the other is immune to, and both can have regen, with Gyutaro's being a little better given his infinite regen and stamina. There is no concrete winner. Choso can't hit Gyutaro and couldn't behead him to begin with, while Gyutaro couldn't damage Choso. The only definite answer would be maybe Gyutaro's self-destruct or last resort attack that could possibly put down Choso. Either way, I'd put my money on Choso just due to his various functions and AP gap. With Daki, maybe things are a little different, giving Gyutaro an extra eye and all, but it's too hard to say given the scenario. Next up is Gyokko versus Dagon, the battle of fishmen. This matchup is actually more interesting than you think. Both can be presented with the win cons. While Gyokko is vastly faster and Dagon is a little stronger, they can still both beat each other. For example, giving Gyokko speed edge, he can use this in tandem with his 1,000 needle fish to incapacitate Dagon with poison. But the unique part is Dagon would need to operate in the massive immensely hypersonic speed range to even lessen this poison. We see Mui do this feat, but would still be affected and hit with these fish. And of course Dagon doesn't scale nowhere near this speed. He would be showered with these fish and weakened severely. And in character, Gyokko would pair this with his water prison pot. While Dagon wouldn't drown, he would definitely not have the awakening to channel his inner power to combust the prison like Mui did. Given this, Gyokko could win with BFR. Dagon's win is a lot more situational, however. Within his domain, he could spawn fish to attack Gyokko. The issue here is speed in Gyokko's pots. Using these, he has the possibility of dodging more than enough of Dagon's attacks. This could be a Toji scenario since Gyokko doesn't have curse energy, in which he just blitzes Dagon like Toji. Either win is fine, but Gyokko has a lot more evidence. The next matchup, Hanami versus Hantengu, is a lot more straightforward as Hantengu just slaps Hanami. Hanami doesn't have the speed or abilities to counter or defeat Upper Moon 4. I could visualize Hanami being in the air with his seed buds, while Hantengu shoots his wooden dragons directly at him. The thing is, even if Hanami could avoid these, he would still need to locate the main body while getting blitzed by Zohakuten. So yeah, Hanami doesn't have any chance here. Even if Hanami uses the Genjutsu-like ability to take away their fighting will, it's futile when you realize Zohakuten isn't the main body, and since he's a demon, erasing the fighting intent could be argued. Then again, what does Hanami actually have to defeat them once this happens? Akaza vs Jogo is a really tough matchup to judge. By now we realize that Demon Slayer characters are going to be faster and JJK characters up until the higher echelons of Demon Slayer are going to be typically stronger. With that in mind, how does these two defeat each other? Firstly, let's look at Jogo's win cons. Given he utilizes real fire unlike Demon Slayer, this could for sure pose an issue. For example, while the red blade has more AP than basic fire, it acts as fire and burns the demon to the point of alter and regeneration. Using this, we can assume that fire can possibly alter a demon's regen. Jogo is also more durable and has higher attack potency. Looking at his maximum meteor attack, which is calced in the city ranges, so if this attack connects with Akaza, he's toast. The only minor chance I see is that Akaza is able to regen his whole body after getting blasted. So maybe he gets hit with this and slowly regens like in the series, but it's highly unlikely given the AP difference. The final win con for Jogo is of course his domain expansion, which like his meteor is cooking Akaza. Akaza's most consistent win cons are going to be his speed and stamina. I could unironically see Akaza tossing Jogo through the buildings like Sukuna was in the anime. Every attack Jogo has for the most part is going to just get healed. Akaza like Yuji only has hands, but he does have some special abilities to launch at Jogo with range, but none to bring him down. He also has Compass Needle to enhance speed. This won't be used to adapt to speed since Akaza is vastly faster, so who wins? Assuming Jogo's fire is acting as a red blade or just practically burning Akaza, Jogo wins, especially if Jogo is able to get off his domain. If Akaza was to get close, which he would given his fighting style, Jogo, if given the chance, could just touch and ignite him similar to what he did to Hanami. Since Jogo cannot just behead Akaza, which would be futile regardless, Jogo would need to obliterate Akaza's entire body, and Jogo definitely has the potential abilities and AP to do so. We cannot use the Muzan house explosions as a way to say Jogo's fire would just erase bro, since the explosion had special attacks just to slow Muzan's regeneration. Akaza could use his stamina and speed as a way to tire Jogo out, as we see this happen with Jogo's battle with Sukuna. Yes, Akaza is faster, but Jogo's win cons are too blatant to disregard. Now for Doma versus Mahito, which is hard to argue for Doma. Doma doesn't have the potential to damage or hurt souls, so this battle, no matter how much faster Doma is, he just cannot actually hurt Mahito. Their AP would be roughly similar given that Doma was severely weakened. Nevertheless, Doma should still lose. He does have ice clones in which he can create 6 clones that utilize his own abilities. These would be useful to actually slow Mahito down, and in fact it's possible for Doma to freeze Mahito. Using this, we could possibly say he could freeze and destroy his entire body, which is possible but unlikely. We do know that his ice does actually slow and hurt the opponent, but this is against a curse and I actually don't see this working. Mahito, while futile, also could create clones and maybe trick Doma to spare a few seconds, but Mahito unironically practically couldn't even touch Doma, and in tandem with his ice clones, Mahito would be forced to use his domain, which would just obliterate Doma. Doma is way faster and could continuously avoid attacks and hit Mahito, but once Mahito uses his domain and catching him, there's no counter. And this really wouldn't even align with how demons fight or how demons' demeanor overall is. Both are psycho and cocky, so I see Doma losing this just to the hacks difference. Finally, for Kokushibo versus Kenjaku. Their AP is more or less similar, with Kenjaku just scaling a little above. Koko is however vastly faster than Kenjaku. Kenjaku is the fastest of the Disaster Curse team and is still getting outsped. It just goes to show how much faster and superior Demon Slayer is in terms of speed. Taking this in account, it's more realistic to just say Koko speed blitzes Kenjaku and cuts his head off, just how Yuta did. We legit saw this happen, and that would happen in this battle, but saying that would be boring, so let's discuss some win cons. His curse summons would just get obliterated as they spawn by Koko, but his gravity manipulation would be enough to give him some room, using this as well as maximum Uzumaki to possibly just one-shot Koko. This however is a long shot, but his domain would be the first solid win con. Both have regen, but Koko's is better due to stamina, and even if Kenjaku pushes Koko, he can just infinitely regen, including his head. He also has 13 forms to utilize in case Kenjaku adapts to a single one. His demonic monster form is useless as it really only grants minor enhancement. See-through world and his long sword is the most useful here since Kenjaku has gravity to space out the battle. Koko can get off the perfect attack with his long sword for range and speed to close the distance. Kenjaku's solid win con would be his lucky domain, which he wouldn't even be able to get off. Once more, Kenny is a katana victim. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I have some more Demon Slayer videos planned, so be on the lookout for those, and until next time, peace.